Hey guys, this is the instructional video for range, and the thing you need to know about range is it's really just a question of knowing what your biggest number is, your biggest value, minus your smallest value. In other words, for range, what we're trying to learn is how far apart are the extremes of any set of data in the point, in any set of points in your data. So when you look at the data, it's really important. I want you to notice that this one is not in order, and they're intentionally all mixed up. And so you have to be very careful when you're doing these to make sure that you identify correctly the smallest possible value and your largest possible value. So I'm going to start by looking for the biggest possible number. And when you go through this set of data here, you're going to notice for me, off the top, that's 16. That's going to be your biggest one. No one's bigger than 16 in the data points, and I'll just check one more time to make sure. And sure enough, that is your biggest number. And now I'm going to look for the smallest number. And since there's some negatives in here, obviously we're going to want the largest negative number to be the smallest number. And that's right over here. Negative 22 is as small or as low as this distribution gets. And so to do the range, all we have to do is say, okay, range will be equal to big minus small. And that means that in this case, the range will be equal to 16 minus, now here you have to be careful, negative 22. And that can be a calculator issue. I'll show you how it works on my calculator over here, and I'll show you a trick to make sure you never make a mistake on your calculator, regardless of how yours calculates. But if you think about it, remember, you've been trained on this one that when we subtract the negative, what's really happening is you end up adding those numbers together. But to show you, on this calculator, I'm going to go 16 minus, and then I have to push the negative in front of that 22. And you can notice that this calculator distinguishes between the minus and the negative by making the negative a little bit smaller. And in this calculator, I have to put the negative in before I push the 22. Other calculators work differently. You have to experiment with yours to see which way that works. And then you cannot forget to hit that equal sign. Now, when you do that, you get an answer of 38. If you want to be sure that you're not messing up over here with this negative business, then do what I did on paper on your calculator. Let me show you. Come over and you hit that 16, and then you're going to go minus, and then open up your brackets. You can see that little bracket right there, and then put in your negative 22, close that bracket, and then hit equals. And you'll see you get that 38 once again. Now, I don't need to use brackets on this particular brand of calculator, and if you're working with this Casio, the same as mine, then you're okay. But if you're using a different calculator and your numbers when you're doing your problem aren't coming out like mine, then try that bracket in your calculations, and it should work just fine. Okay. Last thing I'll say about range, a really useful analogy for thinking about range is to be thinking about things like temperature. Temperature is a really nice way of working with range because it includes both positive numbers like 16 and negative numbers like negative 22. And so if you think about, let's say, I don't know, a place in the world where the warmest day of the year was 16 degrees and the coldest day of the year was negative 22, then the range in those temperatures is 38. 38 degrees of temperature would separate, the coldest day from the hottest day. That's a nice way of thinking about those points in the data set when we're working with range.